The sky above Playa Grande was filled with that ruthless beauty, the kind that, like a scoreless horror movie, appears to be cinematic until actual life unfolds in front of it. In a rhythm, the waves drum the beach. Selfies were taken by the tourists. Malcolm Jamal Warner was just another man on vacation with his family before he wasn't. Witnesses claimed that he smiled as he entered the ocean, oblivious to the invisible tide that would alter everything in an instant. The waves carried him away quickly and mercilessly. They let out a yell. One man, a foreigner from Nicaragua, plunged in after him while others ran. Too slowly, lifeguards moved. CPR was also insufficient. There was nothing. Locals, who didn't know who they were attempting to save, reportedly hauled him out of the water. On the beach beneath that lovely sky, there were 20 minutes of frantic attempts at resuscitation as his wife and daughter stood close by, perhaps praying, or perhaps awake. The Red Cross later reported that he was pronounced dead at the site. Malcolm Jamal Warner, formerly Theo Huxtable to a whole generation, passed away suddenly at the age of 54. A scene like that shouldn't belong to the person who brought joy to millions of people. It may nevertheless be a component of the goal. It was not only a terrible mishap. Many found it more familiar, more calculating and colder. Not just a well-known actor was swept away because of this. He was a man who had quietly earned a life by refusing to play the games Hollywood offered. He never allowed himself to be a stereotypical black person for financial gain, and he stayed out of the spotlight until he had something genuine to offer. He refused to remain silent and to be categorized. In terms of sellouts and sound bites, Warner's non-compliance was notable. Because of this, some people question if he was driven under by anything other than the waves.
I was on the show and we had such good times together. I was probably 18 and Malcolm was probably 17, 16, I don't know. And we would take walks together, all of us, and pick up food, talk, played basketball, hung out on the weekends, went to parties together. He was...
Alleged blacklist curse in Hollywood is the topic of discussion now. You may hear the murmuring in your ears. It's challenging for actors who question the system or who just don't fit in. Whitney, Chadwick, and Prince all experienced it. Mysterious. That. Strange this. And now Malcolm. He left a tradition of nonviolent protest. He worked consistently and thoughtfully, and he was determined to keep his family out of the spotlight. There were no scandals, public outbursts, or drunk driving. Mishaps. The headlines didn't matter to him. Hollywood doesn't want to confront the issues raised by his abrupt change into a one-sided persona in Costa Rican waters.
So unbelievable there. And Branson, I also was reading that just days ago, he had another podcast episode that was dropped, and now a lot of fans are starting to really listen to that as maybe one of his last times.
Warner represented a sentimental holdover from a simpler period of television history. In recent years, he had completely embraced the position of cultural elder, producing, writing, lecturing, and even starting a podcast just weeks before he passed away. The goal of Not Allhood was to give the world a picture of black existence free of stereotypes. It was also intimate. The black community has so many different aspects, he said. We desired a setting that allowed us to truly explore, but we now need to determine whether that level of transparency was too risky. Malcolm was nudging an unseen bear, right? Several insiders claim that Warner has discreetly declined a number of significant jobs that called for him to play a less intelligent or more streetwise persona. A former network producer, who wished to remain anonymous, said, "Theo's grown up, but let's not make him too woke," and Warner left a profitable pitch meeting. The check wasn't actually necessary for him. Suddenly, there were no more calls. The number of requests to speak quickly decreased, despite the fact that his podcast offered a direct line of communication with the public, doing away with the necessity for intermediaries. And he refuses to speak again.
really had was a multi-decade career in Hollywood, spanning several different shows. I did a little bit of research before this, and he had about 84 credits on his resume before passing away at just 54 years old. And TMZ also obtained photo, possibly the last photo of him that we may even have ever seen on TMZ.com at the airport on July 13th coming into Costa Rica. It's just so tragic to look at that photo and think that just a week later he'd be...
Now the mystery begins to take a turn. Authorities in Costa Rica have also charged a second Nicaraguan man, only 29, of being involved in the same murder. He dove into the river to try to save Warner, even though he had nothing to do with him. Only a few days after he almost died, he was pulled out, stabilized, taken to the hospital in severe condition, and then silently released. Not even a first name, no family remarks, no photos, and no press conference. All we know is that he survived. He disappeared as soon as he could walk once more. Why is this man going unnoticed? He was the only other person in that water, so why is the media treating him like a piece of trivia? Otherwise, a near hero would be flaunted in late-night interviews and morning broadcasts. But there's nothing. There was silence on the radio. And we're not the only ones who think the silence is a bit too deliberate. The lack of knowledge is unsettling, according to a journalist from Costa Rica. Another source suggests that the man may have seen something he shouldn't have. Many hypotheses have previously been put forth.
To remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile. Like if you just take a minute to stop and take stock, I guarantee you can find at least one reason to smile. And if for some reason you can't find a reason to smile, then that's probably the best time to be the reason.
What did he see? Was Warner having trouble before the current swept him away? Did he say anything? Were there other people in the water? What, more significantly, has kept this survivor from speaking up? Was he reached by anyone? People are talking. Many speculated that Warner might have been being tailed prior to the trip and that certain industry people were scared of what he might say next on his podcast. It might sound absurd, but keep in mind that we are discussing a field where NDAs are more important than wedding vows and careers could be lost more quickly than an Instagram post. We've come full circle to the name that keeps coming up, Katt Williams. For years, the comedian-turned-cultural whistleblower has been criticizing the lawless and powerful people in the business who host extravagant parties that nobody seems to discuss once the lights go out. As he once remarked, "Pity wants to party, and you have to tell him no." Williams was referring to the type of gathering where refusing is met with contempt. "I did." It turns you into someone's object of desire. He hasn't changed his mind since making that public declaration.
Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no.
Williams believes that in 2024, all of the important characters will be damned to hell. He hasn't yet been shown to be incorrect. Diddy is in federal custody. When the FBI raided his residences, they took much more than just receipts, allegedly confiscating thousands of oil bottles and other equipment used in the notorious freak-offs. Tabloid fantasy is not what that is. The court documented that seizure. Additionally, additional shoes will be published soon if Katt's timeline is accurate. Many mysteries can be discovered by watching a Geno game. Additionally, every fragment that disintegrates reveals a used to believe that this name was invincible. Thus, a well-respected, grounded, and yes, culturally aware actor like Malcolm Jamal Warner dies unexpectedly in a distant country under strange circumstances just weeks after starting a platform devoted to exposing the truth. People pay attention. Warner demonstrated that it was possible to escape the machine and still lead a decent life since he was more than just EO in the black community. He was the quiet man, the kind man, the friend who never had to brag since his work was obvious. We must now question whether his goodness was sufficient to keep him safe.
All lies will be exposed, that's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
Survivor's silence is not as simple as it seems. The first tremor in what may be a string of surprises is the title, and one that could lead to more mystery. Malcolm's anxieties and reliability are evaluated. You can't drown in our line of work if no one is on shore to monitor you. But when we contrast the quiet surrounding the surviving man with indicators that have been ignored for many years, long before Warner's last swim, Katt Williams, known for her boldness and scandal, was stealing secrets from Hollywood. In addition to criticizing corporate tycoons and exposing biased party invitations, he has more recently accused an invisible elite of orchestrating events from behind the velvet curtain. According to Williams, this elite is ritualistic in addition to being wealthy. Moreover, it causes careers to vanish rather than just cease.
When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, and nobody.
He referred to them as the Illuminati. Again and again, in code or whispers, it is forbidden. And it seemed like a fresh door closed each time he did. Despite fewer reservations, postponed specials, and cancelled studio deals, he continued. Earlier this year, he declared that all of these massive deviants will be damned in hell in 2024. While some nodded, others laughed. However, the laughter is beginning to wane since Warner's mysterious mishap. What else might Katt be correct about if he has been correct about Diddy's empire of secrets and the entertainment industry's fixation with power? Come on, let's connect the dots. Warner has been offered jobs that asked him to minimize conversation, emphasize prejudices, and forsake cultural sensitivity in order to increase the audience. No, he said over and over, in a town that only recognizes black brilliance when it is restrained and commercially feasible, it is not good business. Warner made a commendable decision. He left behind texts and plots that mocked him. He wasn't upset. He had done it on purpose. On the other hand, intention might show up as revolt if a system rewards cooperation and punishes non-compliance.
To bring up the sad news, but news did break today of the untimely passing of Malcolm Jamal.
5. The script is not new to us. Prince turned his name into a symbol and painted a slave on his cheek as he discussed ownership and label corruption. After that, rumors circulated that he was lonely, suspicious, and fragile. He was eventually discovered by himself in an elevator in a home he had constructed to get away from the system. They don't care about us. Based on Michael Jackson's lyrics, interviews, and unspoken allusions, he battled for power, his library, and the industry. Then, one day, Neverland's lights went out. Additionally, the only story left was what others had written for him. These weren't just catastrophes. They were cautious, black musicians with platforms, money, and influence who are outspoken. Men began to wonder why the gatekeepers all appeared to know one another in private when they were unable to own their masters. The headlines changed in tandem with their fight for freedom. Accidents, overdoses, and medical conundrums. It wasn't prescription drugs or tablets in Warner's situation. Heaven was like that. And that way heightens the eerie mood.
On out to the coastline just before sunrise and a little after sunrise, got into the water. Not too many details about what exactly happened once he was in the water, but authorities did end up finding his body actually hundreds of yards away down the shoreline. His body was discovered in a rocky cove. It was
Now discuss patterns. A disproportionately high percentage of well-known celebrities have passed away far from home within the last 20 years. Vacations that came to an end include those that involved funerals, opulent boats, sunny beaches, or celebrities slinking away in hotels abroad. It has a poetic feel about it. It's too ideal and too far away. Supporters are unable to organize. The family does not have enough time to react. Officials who are not identifiable conduct autopsies. Moreover, the plots are typically pre-planned. He had been worn out. She needed to rest. They never returned from their swimming trip. Yes, it is tragic, yet also realistic. If there were a crime, it would be the ideal one to commit. Aim for the appearance of nature on the first page of a manual. I'm not saying there is one. Sand doesn't leave fingerprints because oceans don't speak. Furthermore, until someone starts posing the appropriate queries, such as why Warner was by himself on the beach, we might never find out if something nefarious occurred in those Costa Rican seas. Why has the Nicaraguan guy faded into obscurity after being heralded as a hero for a short time? Why aren't reporters investigating who covered his medical expenses? Who spoke to him before he vanished? Or whom he is now staying with?
What's good? Yes, I got the flower in my hair. Today's my daughter's birthday. She put the flower there, so I'm rocking it. What? It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta. I just wanted to shout out and just spread some love and some good cheer. And you know, life is out here lifing, right? For me.
Another perspective. What was Warner's main project before his vacation? Hood was more than just a podcast. It served as a platform. According to insiders, he had previously recorded a number of unreleased episodes with the intention of focusing on what he referred to as the machine behind perception. The subjects covered included the psychological costs of working in a field that thrives on delusion, the true reason why some shows are never approved, and the silent discrimination in Hollywood. Those cases have not been heard by us. Will we ever? Even though the public was not given access to the unreleased episodes, a few quotes from Malcolm Jamal Warner's fact that not all Hood podcasts have begun to reappear online is another cause for concern. Over the past few weeks, listeners have noticed a little but noticeable change in Warner's tone. There was a hint of agitation and haste in his speech, which had before been calm and collected. He discussed legacy as both a burden and a gift in one of the final shows to be broadcast to the public, implying that speaking the truth can be costly in a society where keeping quiet is frequently necessary to survive. Warner never promoted the podcast as a political program, but it became more and more obvious that he was attempting to address the core issues. Fans are now analyzing each line from a different perspective.
Historic and frozen in time is this iconic character. What did that mean for television, and what does it still mean to this day?
Sam, Theo Huxtable was me. Theo Huxtable was my brothers. Theo Huxtable was the first time someone that looked like me saw someone that looked like himself on television. He was the epitome of what we as kids,
Some of his observations are now nearly prophetic. In a now viral video, he discussed the perils of being authentic in a society that makes money off of masks. Many interpret this as his subtly criticizing the industry's insistence that actors, particularly black males, play publicly acceptable characters, even if it means sacrificing their dignity. It has been said that Warner concealed feelings he couldn't express in public on the podcast by using nuanced commentary and inventive analogies. It is not new for a public figure to utilize art as a form of resistance to a system that silences censors. However, the time is too important to overlook, as Warner's death is only a few weeks away. Additionally unnerving is the sudden stop of Warner's suggestion of a new miniseries that would examine how black stories are sterilized for white comfort coincided with the development. Undoubtedly, the subject matter was contentious, but it aligned with Warner's oeuvre. However, some people think that series might have been the decisive factor. No files have been made public after his death, and there is no evidence that the programs were ever recorded. Would any steps have been taken before the shows aired? Before Warner left for Costa Rica, did he receive any warning, coercion, or even a veil? Those last podcast episodes, which may have been the last remnants of what Malcolm Jamal Warner really meant to say before everything went silent, have taken on the qualities of a Rosetta Stone due to his team's lack of transparency and the evasive responses from streaming services.
Everything I'm telling you, that's why I can say them so freely.
I need to know.
However, what about those who were aware? Warner was close to some veterans, but his connections with them were complex. According to an award-winning screenwriter, Warner was growing more and more irritated with the Fox wokeness in the business, so he wanted to expose the smoke and mirrors of representation and reveal who is actually profiting. According to the same source, Warner had developed paranoia in recent months and had started thinking about surveillance and legal protection. He was cautious but not afraid. What do we have left then? A well-liked performer who has never used drugs, been involved in scandals, or harbored animosity. Not present. One of the enigmatic witnesses who survived to share the tale. Keep quiet. Strong black voices are increasingly being silenced as soon as they are judged unsuitable. A system that encourages silence, penalizes rebellion, and rewards inaction underpins all of this. Before we begin to wonder who is writing the script, we must repeatedly see the same story.
have not been funded. They pay you to not talk about things they don't want you to talk about.
Katt Williams has already come to terms with the possibility that he may never again be permitted to enter the rooms where deals are made. I declined $50 million for Times in order to maintain my integrity. You have to tell Pitty no because he wants to party. It's not just a joke, he said. It acts as a warning, knowing what occurs at events when phones are prohibited. And non-disclosure agreements (NDAs) take up more room than the guest list. An industry veteran denies a fortune. Warner too did not attend. Boundaries were the foundation of his life. He left just as he was beginning to voice his opinions about the challenging realities of his work.
Yes, obviously so heartbreaking. Such a tragedy. Here in the office, so many Cosby Show fans of this wonderful actor, and he had a very long career even after the show that he was known.
We keep returning to the survivor. The man was pulled from the same waves and treated in the same facility, but he was released without any explanation or fanfare. Was he aware of Warner's difficulties? Was there shouting or splashing? Or was there anybody else present? Was there something he observed that scared him into keeping quiet? Was he involved in something else? Was he supposed to be a warning or a witness? Malcolm's quiet is advantageous to whom? What if Jamal Warner's passing wasn't merely a terrible mishap? Was it a message? Or was it the sea? If so, who comes after? How many more voices will there be before the pattern becomes hard to ignore? In the comments section, share your theories. Is this an accident or a plot? In actuality, who do you think is in charge? Malcolm, may you rest in peace and remember to ask questions. You weren't merely a fictional figure.